The big discovery, as far as I can gather, is what was found in Norfolk, that human habitation here has doubled in your estimation in terms of the length of time. Tell me about it.
Yes, near enough. So when we began our project in 2001, we thought that ancient humans were in Britain 500,000 years ago. That was quite a long time, but we've successively pushed it back to 700,000 and now to around 900,000. And here we've got Nick Ashton from the British Museum talking about the stone tools we found in Norfolk. And they were found here on this beach. In a site on the beach. Dating from this period of time, there's the land bridge showing, and also our most recent discovery was actual human footprints on the beach at the low tide level at Haysborough. So we've got the stone tools they made, and we've got the footprints of a group of people, maybe even a family group, that were roaming alongside what was the River Thames up there in Norfolk 900,000 years ago.
It's remarkable.
It is. No, it's astonishing. And the sad thing is those footprints disappeared within 2 or 3 weeks because they were in the intertidal zone. But we are looking, and we are sure more will turn up, and we will be able to record more of them.
So this, the big freeze.
This is it, the big freeze. There's the size of that huge ice sheet, covered most of Britain 450,000 years ago.
And so we're now in the Ice Age.
Yep.
One of them.
Maximum cold stage. At times Britain was warmer than the present day. It was like the Mediterranean. And at other times, extremely cold, extremely dry. As you can see, an environment where there were mammoths living on these cold steppes. Sometimes too cold for humans, at other times people were here alongside those mammoths.
Here you've got an amazing replica of an early Homo sapiens, right?
That's right, yes.
That's us.
That's us. So this is a member of our species reconstructed from over 30,000 years ago. So one of the really early modern human Europeans, and here he is based on material from Wales and from the Czech Republic, but a skeleton built up here very accurately to show the shape of the body. Modern humans came into Britain about 40,000 years ago. So he's one of the earliest people into Britain. But of course, even these groups couldn't keep their occupation here. 25,000 years ago, the peak of the last ice age, it looks like everyone in Britain died out. And then it has to be repopulated all over again, twice more, before we get to the last 12,000 years, which is our present occupation.
And how does this all play in as we have this really vivid climate change debate right now?
We would have been going in to an ice age, really, in terms of our position in space, any time now. Because we're burning all these fossil fuels and putting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, we are stopping that happening. We're dampening it, but the danger is that we're sending the climate in the other direction to another extreme, which will be warmer than anything we've seen in human history.
And this is the Neanderthal.
Yes.
Which climate change was part of what made him extinct.
Well, I think so, yes. I mean, there are different views. So these people were around for several 100,000 years, very successful, and they died out by 30,000 years ago. Physically, they'd gone. Now, we know they haven't completely died out because a little bit of their DNA lives on in many of us today because there was a bit of interbreeding. But physically, they disappeared by 30,000 years ago, and we've been arguing about why for over 100 years. Partly, it was the arrival of modern humans who were competing with them for resources, but also at the same time, the climate of the Earth was fluctuating every few thousand years, very dramatically, from relatively warm to freezing cold. So these very short-scale oscillations, I think, combined with the competing species, human species, really in the end did for them.
When you say there's a little bit of Neanderthal DNA in us even now, so when I as an insult say to somebody, oh, you're such a Neanderthal, actually it's true.
Well, yes, we most of us today are a bit Neanderthal, a small bit. And the Neanderthals, of course, yes, they were different from us, and you know, they've had such a bad press. You know, it is an insult to call someone a Neanderthal. And yet, as you can see, this guy is a human being. He's walking upright, he's got a large brain, as large as ours, so he's fully human, but he's a distinct kind of human with his own particular adaptations and way of life. And the Neanderthals as a group were very successful for several 100,000 years. So they did pretty well for their time.
They did, and let's walk into these other rooms, because what's incredible is the notion of hippopotamuses in the centre of London.
That's right, yes. So when we come here, we can see the other side of the story.
I mean, here it is.
Yeah, So
It's really incredible.
Yeah.
Is this a real skeleton?
yes, well, in fact, this is a modern hippopotamus,
Right.
but
Oh, okay.
we've got fossil ones which are being installed over there now.
Okay.
So in Trafalgar Square, on the south side of Trafalgar Square, if you dig in the foundations of the buildings, you will find the remains of animals from 120,000 years ago, where the climate was even warmer than the present day, maybe 1 degree warmer in the summer.
And is that why they were here? I mean, my question is, how did hippopotamuses live in central London? How did rhinos and lions stalk the English countryside?
Yes, well, yes, it was warmer than the present day, and hippos, we know, don't like cold water, so it has to have been warm enough for them to be here. And they weren't just in London, they were all over Britain. They were in Wales, they were in the north, so they were very widespread, along, as you say, with lions, hyenas, straight-tusked elephants, rhinoceroses, and what's interesting
All of this
is
in England, which is
all
not
of this-
known as a
all
safari
of this in Britain,
destination.
absolutely, that's right. At first glance, you think you were in the plains of Africa. But what's interesting is there's not a single bit of human material associated with this fauna.
So they
there
were
are-
here when humans were pushed out.
Absolutely. There are no stone tools associated with them. There are no cut marks on the bones. So these animals were not being exploited by humans because Britain was an island. The sea level had come up and isolated Britain about 130,000 years ago. As the land bridge must have drowned, obviously some animals were able to get across. The hippos and elephants could have swum across. The Neanderthals, who were pushed south by the previous cold stage, as they moved north, they got to the French coast and the English Channel was there. They didn't have boats. They couldn't get across.
Amazing.
It's an amazing story.
The epic struggle of the human experience.
Absolutely, yes. And here we've got it in Britain for nearly 1 million years.